The spark that lit the fire. The observation deck of Nexus Prime stretched out like a crystal cathedral, its transparent walls offering a breathtaking view of the swirling nebula beyond. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood at the massive conference table, her hands steady despite the weight of representing 3 billion humans across dozens of colonies. The Galactic Peace Accords were supposed to be humanity's moment of acceptance into the greater community of stars. Elena had spent 15 years working toward this day. She remembered when humans were considered nothing more than aggressive primitives who had barely crawled out of their home system. Now she stood as an equal among beings whose civilization spanned millennia. Her translator hummed softly as she addressed the assembly of over 30 species. Honored delegates, humanity comes to this table not as conquerors, but as partners. We offer our industrial capacity, our innovation, and our determination to build something greater than any of us could achieve alone. Her words carried across the vast chamber, translated into dozens of languages for creatures of every conceivable form. The Korthax delegation sat in their environmental pods, their insectoid forms clicking with what Elena had learned to recognize as impatience. Prime Minister Zethkar's compound eyes fixed on her with obvious disdain. The Korthax had opposed human inclusion from the beginning, claiming humans were too volatile, too unpredictable for civilized discourse. Speaker Thylon, the graceful avian who led the council, raised one feathered hand. Ambassador Rodriguez, your species has indeed shown remarkable progress. However, concerns remain about human military expansion and the aggressive nature your people have displayed in territorial disputes. Elena felt her jaw tighten, but kept her voice level. With respect, Speaker Thylon, every growing civilization faces growing pains. Humanity has not initiated conflict with any council member. We've responded proportionally to threats against our colonies, nothing more. A ripple of chittering came from the Korthax pods. Zethkar's translator crackled to life, his words dripping with contempt. Proportional? You destroyed an entire Zalani pirate fleet over a single cargo vessel. You glassed 3 moons to eliminate smuggler bases. This is not proportional. This is savage. The Zalani pirates had captured and enslaved 200 human colonists, Elena replied, her voice carrying steel now. The smugglers were trafficking human children. We defended our people, as any responsible government would. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien languages as delegates argued among themselves. Elena remained standing, her dark eyes scanning the crowd. She had expected resistance, but the venom in some of these voices was surprising. Humanity had worked so hard to prove they belonged here, and still they faced this skepticism. Speaker Thylon called for order, his melodic voice cutting through the chaos. We are here to discuss humanity's formal integration into the Galactic Council, not to relitigate past conflicts. Ambassador Rodriguez, what assurances can your government provide that human expansion will remain peaceful? Elena stepped forward, activating the holographic display that showed Earth's proposed development zones, all carefully planned to avoid Council territories. Humanity seeks only to develop uninhabited systems and to trade freely with all Council members. We're offering mutual defense pacts, technological exchanges, and cultural programs. We want to contribute to galactic stability, not threaten it. The Korthax Prime Minister rose from his pod, his 4 arms gesturing dismissively. Pretty words from a species that has shown its true nature. Humans are a plague that spreads across systems, consuming resources and leaving destruction in their wake. They should be contained, not welcomed. That's enough, Elena said, her diplomatic mask finally slipping. For 3 years, humanity has bent over backward to accommodate Council concerns. We've limited our expansion, opened our borders to inspectors, and shared our technology freely. What more do you want from us? Zethkar's mandibles clicked in what Elena recognized as a laugh. What we want is for your species to know its place. You are not equals here. You are barely evolved apes who happen to stumble onto faster-than-light travel. You will never be more than that. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant hum of environmental systems seemed to quiet as Elena stared at the Korthax leader. She had endured insults and condescension for years, always maintaining her composure, always taking the high road. But something in Zethkar's words, the casual dismissal of her entire species, finally broke something inside her. "Prime Minister Zethkar," she said, her voice deadly quiet. "Humanity didn't stumble onto anything. We built our ships with our hands. We mapped the stars with our courage. We've earned our place in this galaxy through blood, sweat, and determination. And we will not be spoken to like children by anyone, regardless of how old their civilization is." The Korthax leader's eyes glittered with malice. "Ah, there it is. The human aggression. The violent nature you try so hard to hide. This is exactly why your species—" The energy weapon discharged without warning. The brilliant blue beam struck Elena's center mass, and she collapsed instantly. The smell of ozone and burned flesh filled the chamber as delegates screamed and scattered. Elena Rodriguez, humanity's voice in the stars, was dead before her body hit the floor. Captain Marcus Chen was reviewing supply reports in his quarters aboard the UES Defiance when the priority transmission came through. The massive dreadnought was patrolling the outer rim, 3 days from the nearest Council world. Marcus had served with Elena Rodriguez during the colonial wars, and when she'd chosen diplomacy over military service, he'd chosen to honor her path by keeping the peace she worked so hard to build. The emergency signal cut through every system on the ship, filling the bridge with the harsh klaxon of a priority alpha transmission. Marcus ran from his quarters, his coffee still steaming on the desk behind him. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison met him at the bridge entrance, his usually cheerful face grave. "Sir, you need to see this transmission. It's from Nexus Prime." The main screen flickered to life, showing Speaker Thylan's beautiful avian features, marred by what Marcus recognized as grief. The council leader's voice was tight with emotion as she spoke. "To all member species and allied governments, it is with heavy hearts that we report a tragic accident during today's peace negotiations. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez of Earth was killed when a Korthax security officer's weapon malfunctioned during routine security protocols. The officer in question is being held pending investigation." Marcus felt the world tilt sideways. Elena, dead. The woman who had saved his life on Kepler 7, who had talked him out of leaving the service after his squad was killed, who had become humanity's greatest advocate among the stars. Gone. "Accident," Morrison said, his voice flat. "Captain, with respect, that's bullshit." Marcus nodded slowly, his mind racing. "Get me Admiral Blackwood on Quantum Comm, Priority Alpha. And Jake, send a message to all human colonies. They deserve to know what happened to their ambassador." The next 72 hours were the longest in human history. Across every colony, every space station, every ship in the void, humanity observed complete silence. No transmissions, no trade, no communication with any alien species. The galaxy, which had grown accustomed to human chatter filling the comm channels, suddenly faced an eerie quiet from Sol and all its children. Admiral Sarah Blackwood stood in the Situation Room of Luna Command, staring at the tactical displays showing the positions of every human fleet. At 65, she had lived through humanity's first contact with aliens, the colonial expansion, and the slow process of integration into galactic society. She had known Elena since the young diplomat was fresh out of the academy, full of idealism and determination to prove humanity deserved a place among the stars. "Madam Admiral," her aide said quietly, "we're receiving thousands of messages from across the colonies. Every fleet commander, every colonial governor, every military unit is asking for orders." Sarah's weathered hands clenched into fists. She had spent her career following Elena's vision of peaceful integration, but Elena was gone now, murdered by the very species they had tried so hard to appease. The investigation report came in from Nexus Prime, her intelligence chief reported. The Korthax claim it was a weapons malfunction. They say the officer's rifle had a faulty safety mechanism. And what does the evidence say? The energy signature shows the weapon was deliberately charged and aimed. No malfunction. It was assassination, pure and simple. Sarah closed her eyes. Elena had died trying to make peace, and the aliens couldn't even be honest about how they'd killed her. They thought humanity would swallow their lies, accept their token investigation, and return to begging for scraps at their table. "Orders, Admiral?" Sarah opened her eyes, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of humanity's fury. "Deploy the fleets. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The Korthax want to see human aggression. They're about to get a masterclass. And make sure the entire galaxy hears this. Ambassador Rodriguez died trying to make peace. Since they killed our voice of peace, they'll hear our voice of war." The silence that had gripped humanity for 3 days shattered like glass as fleets across the galaxy roared to life. The UES Defiance led the charge, its engines burning bright as it raced toward Korthax space. Captain Chen stood on his bridge, watching the stars streak past. Elena's face burned into his memory. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you silenced Earth's voice. They were about to discover that humanity's capacity for peace was matched only by their capacity for war. The galaxy burns. The first strike came at 600 Standard Galactic Time, coordinated across 12 star systems simultaneously. Captain Marcus Chen watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Kelvani, a major Korthax industrial world. The planet's orbital platforms, gleaming like jewels in the system's twin suns, had no idea what was coming. "All ships report ready, Captain," Lieutenant Commander Morrison announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to do. The fleet stretching before them represented the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. 47 warships, each one bristling with weapons that had been designed to protect human colonies from pirates and raiders. Today, they would serve a different purpose. Marcus opened a channel to the entire fleet, his words carrying to every ship in the formation. "This is Captain Chen of the UES Defiance. 72 hours ago, the Korthax murdered Ambassador Elena Rodriguez in cold blood, then tried to convince the galaxy it was an accident. They wanted to silence humanity's voice of peace. Today, they hear our voice of war." He paused, looking at the tactical display showing Korthax defense platforms scrambling to respond. Too little, too late. Elena Rodriguez spent her life trying to prove humanity deserved a place among the stars. The Korthax answered her with murder. Operation Thunderstrike is authorized. Show them what humanity does to those who kill our own. The UES Defiance fired the first shot, its main railgun hurling a tungsten projectile at 30% the speed of light. The massive slug punched through the primary orbital platform's shields like they were paper, detonating the station's reactor in a miniature sun that lit up the planet's atmosphere. Across the system, human ships opened fire in perfect coordination. Missile salvos screamed toward defensive positions, while particle beams carved through Korthax vessels, caught still docking. The planet's population of 2 billion Korthax had no military targets worth the name, but every orbital facility, every space elevator, every satellite in the system was considered fair game. Morrison watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction as Korthax shuttles fled the burning stations. "Sir, we're receiving surrender transmissions from 17 separate facilities. Acknowledged. Broadcast the terms. Total evacuation of all orbital assets within 6 hours. Anyone remaining after that time frame is considered a combatant." The same scene played out across 11 other Korthax worlds. The industrial heart of their civilization, built over centuries, died in the space of a single morning. Admiral Blackwood had planned the operation with surgical precision, targeting manufacturing centers, shipyards, and resource extraction platforms while avoiding populated areas. This wasn't genocide, it was economic warfare on a scale the galaxy had never seen. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Captain Diana Voss watched Korthax Prime's moon-based shipyards dissolve into expanding clouds of debris. Her ship had lost 2 crew members to Korthax pirates 5 years ago, and she had volunteered to lead the strike on their homeworld's industrial capacity personally. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Prime Minister Zethkar himself," her communications officer reported. "Put him through." The insectoid face that appeared on screen was very different from the arrogant creature who had insulted Elena Rodriguez. Zethkar's compound eyes showed what Diana had learned to recognize as fear, and his mandibles clicked frantically as he spoke. "Human vessel, cease your attacks immediately. This is an act of unprovoked aggression against a peaceful member of the Galactic Council. We demand you withdraw your forces and submit to Council arbitration." Diana almost laughed. "Prime Minister Zethkar, I am Captain Diana Voss of the United Earth ship Retribution. 3 days ago, your forces murdered Ambassador Elena Rodriguez during peace negotiations. Today, we are providing a proportional response." "Proportional? You've destroyed centuries of infrastructure, billions of credits in industrial capacity." Ambassador Rodriguez represented the hopes and dreams of 3 billion humans. Your assassin destroyed that with a single shot. We're destroying your capacity to build the weapons you use to threaten peaceful species. This is proportional. The Korthax leader's image flickered as another explosion lit up the space around his transmission point. "The Council will never stand for this. You are outcasts now. Pariahs." Diana's expression hardened. "Then the Council chose poorly. UES Retribution, out." The transmission cut, leaving Diana staring at the burning ruins of what had been the Korthax military's primary construction facility. Ambassador Rodriguez had died trying to prove humanity could be reasonable. The Korthax response had been to mock her as a barely evolved ape. Now they were learning what barely evolved apes could do when they put their minds to it. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, emergency sessions had been running continuously since the first reports of human attacks came through. Speaker Thylan stood before a holographic display showing the devastating efficiency of Operation Thunderstrike. 12 systems, 43 major installations, completely neutralized in less than 8 hours. "The humans have crippled Korthax industrial capacity across 3 sectors," she announced to the assemble. It delegates. "Their attacks were precisely coordinated and executed with military efficiency we did not know they possessed." The Zalani representative, a crystalline being whose species had clashed with human colonies over mining rights, projected alarm through his translator. "This is exactly what we warned about. Human aggression, unchecked and now unleashed upon a council member. They must be stopped." "Stopped with what?" The question came from Ambassador Korath of the Thyssen Commonwealth, a species that had maintained neutral relations with humanity. The Korthax had the 4th largest military in the council. The humans destroyed their capacity to build new ships in a single day. Does anyone else want to test what humanity considers proportional response? Before anyone could answer, every screen in the chamber flickered to the image of Captain Chen on the bridge of the Defiance. The human captain looked directly into the camera, his scarred face showing no emotion as he began to speak. "My name is Captain Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. 72 hours ago, the Korthax murdered Ambassador Elena Rodriguez during peace negotiations. They then attempted to convince this council that her death was an accident, a malfunction, a tragic mistake." The chamber fell silent as Chen continued, his voice carrying across the galaxy through hijacked communication networks. "Elena Rodriguez spent 15 years of her life trying to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. She believed that differences between species could be resolved through dialogue, compromise, and mutual respect. The Korthax answered her with murder." The display behind Chen showed the burning orbital platforms around Kelvani, the twisted wreckage of the Korthax industrial complex on Velkar, the debris fields that had been military shipyards just hours before. "This is humanity's response. We did not attack civilian populations. We did not target schools, hospitals, or homes. We destroyed the military and industrial capacity that the Korthax have used to threaten peaceful species for decades. This is what we consider proportional." Chen leaned forward, his eyes seeming to stare directly at every delegate in the chamber. To the members of the Galactic Council, humanity came to you seeking partnership, offering our strength in service of peace. You responded by allowing our ambassador to be murdered and then covering up the crime. If this is how the Council treats those who seek peace, then humanity will seek security through strength. The transmission shifted to show Admiral Blackwood in Luna Command, her aged face set in stone as she addressed the galaxy. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all Council negotiations and agreements. Earth's colonies are under the protection of the United Earth Defense Force, and any attack upon human citizens will be met with overwhelming force. We tried to earn our place through diplomacy. Now we will take it through strength. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Speaker Thylon looked around at the assembled delegates, seeing fear in every alien face. Prime Minister Zethkar had demanded to address the council personally, and his transmission came through on emergency chaw. Inels, the proud Korthax leader who had insulted humanity just days before, now appeared haggard, his environmental pod bearing scorch marks from the nearby explosions. "Honored delegates," he began, his translator struggling with the rapid clicks of his agitated speech. "The humans have committed an act of unprovoked warfare against the Korthax Republic. They have destroyed military assets, industrial infrastructure, and defensive positions across our territory. This cannot be tolerated." Ambassador Korath activated his translation matrix. "Prime Minister, did your forces not assassinate Ambassador Rodriguez during peace negotiations?" Zethkar's compound eyes shifted nervously. "The weapon malfunction was regrettable, but was it a malfunction?" The question came from the Drakmari representative, a species known for their blunt honesty. "Our intelligence services have analyzed the energy signatures. The weapon was deliberately aimed and fired. This was murder, not accident." The Korthax leader's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Even if that were true, the human response is disproportionate. They've set back our industrial capacity by decades." Speaker Thylon's feathers ruffled with what the assembled delegates recognized as anger. "Prime Minister Zethkar, you murdered the representative of a species seeking peaceful integration. You then lied to this council about the circumstances. The humans have responded by eliminating your capacity to commit such acts in the future. Perhaps you should consider this a lesson in the consequences of your actions." As the debates raged in the council chambers, the real effects of Operation Thunderstrike were being felt across the galaxy. The Korthax military, deprived of their industrial base, found themselves unable to maintain their aggressive expansion into disputed territories. Smaller species who had lived in fear of Korthax Rai had suddenly found their skies clear. The Thyssen Commonwealth was the first to formally recognize humanity's right to defend their colonies. The Drakmari followed within hours. By the end of the week, 17 species had opened direct diplomatic channels with Earth, bypassing the Council entirely. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching the debris field that had once been the primary Korthax shipyard in the system. Lieutenant Commander Morrison joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a datapad full of reports. "Casualty reports, sir," Morrison said quietly. "Across all 12 operations, human forces sustained minimal losses. 17 wounded, 3 ships with minor damage. Korthax losses, significant infrastructure damage, but civilian casualties were minimal. We kept our word about avoiding population centers." Chen nodded, sipping his coffee. Elena would have approved of that, at least. She never wanted innocent beings to suffer for their government's choices. "Sir, we're receiving congratulations from colonies across human space. The governor of New Horizons says Ambassador Rodriguez would be proud." Marcus stared out at the stars, thinking of the woman who had dedicated her life to proving humanity belonged among them. She had died trying to build bridges, and now her death had forced humanity to build something else entirely. Respect through strength. "Jake, set course for Earth. It's time to go home." As the UES Defiance and her escorts turned away from the burning remnants of Korthak's military power, the galaxy watched and learned. Humanity had tried to earn their place through peace and been answered with murder. Now they had taken their place through strength, and no one would ever mistake them for barely evolved apes again. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez had spent her life trying to prove humanity deserved to be heard. In death, she had given her species something far more valuable, the respect that comes only through power and the knowledge that Earth's children would never again be silenced by those who underestimated their resolve. The galaxy had wanted to see human nature. Now they understood what it truly meant when humanity said, "Never again."